Hi, I'm Angela Hughes. I'm a freelance editor and proofreader, and I'm about to publish my first book. In my early 20s, I was diagnosed with hypertrophic cardiomyopathy. In simple terms, this means the muscle in the middle of my heart, the myocardium, was enlarged, which makes it much less effective. Over the next 10 years, my condition began to deteriorate. I often became breathless, and I had intermittent fast heart rhythms or arrhythmias. Mostly I recovered quickly from these until the day my heart went into a fast rhythm and it didn't come out of it. I was taken to my local hospital and quickly transferred to the coronary care unit in Edinburgh, and I knew then that things were serious. During that stay, I had my first round of what's known as cardiac ablation, an incision's made into a vein in the top of my leg, and through that a catheter was threaded, and wires with tiny electrodes are passed through the catheter to allow the doctor to scar or burn, kind of ablate tiny areas of my heart to try and stop the rogue rhythms. I was kept awake throughout this. That first time the ablation didn't work. It did the second time and the third, and then it stopped working. In between these procedures, my heart was cardioverted on 6 different occasions, which is where they shock it back into rhythm with paddles. And then when all of these interventions were no longer effective, they started introducing devices to support my heart. First there was one pacemaker, then another, better one, but the arrhythmias became more persistent and more dangerous. So lastly, an ICD, or implantable cardiac defibrillator, which is a small device, slightly bigger than a matchbox, was inserted below my left collarbone, and the wires from that went into my heart so that should it go into a dangerous rhythm, I could be shocked internally. By now I was in my early 40s, and I carried on working throughout, but I could see the finish line of my life approaching, and so I quit my job and I decided to follow my passion, which was to do creative writing, so I signed up for an MLit. And that was the pivotal moment. That was the decision where my life changed direction. I began my course in September 2011, and on my first day, I met a man walking towards me wearing a red jumper, and a wide smile. His name was Paul. 3 years later, we would be married, but a lot would happen before that time. I loved university, the writing workshops where we read and critiqued each other's work, the sense of a creative community, but it came at a cost. My heart was weakening at a rapid pace. My lips were blue and my skin and pallor were grey. On my graduation day, my breathing was so laboured that I could barely make it across the stage to receive my award. I was constantly cold, my body and lungs were filling with water, and I was becoming waterlogged, drowning from the inside, if you like. In early November 2013, I got my dream job as a lecturer in creative writing. Later that month, I collapsed in the car park of my local hospital on the way to a routine cardiology appointment. I was rushed to A&E and 48 hours later transferred to the National Transplant Unit in Glasgow. A barrage of tests followed, and one of these was significant. The right heart catheter measures how well or how poorly your heart is performing, and the measurements from that test indicate your suitability for transplant and indeed your kind of chances for survival. Until that moment, my worst fear was that I would need a transplant, but the numbers indicated that I may well be too ill to have one. I was told my case would be reviewed at the next multidisciplinary team meeting, and for 2 days, I waited out to see if I would be given a chance to live. On Friday the 6th of December, following talks between my medical team and experts throughout the UK, I was added to the urgent transplant list, and I received my new heart on Christmas Day. During my recovery, I married Paul and wrote a memoir of my experience, several extracts of which were published. I won a work in progress grant, and in 2016 my manuscript was signed to a leading Scottish publisher. The following year, the publisher went into liquidation, and a week later my mum was diagnosed with a brain tumour. My priorities shifted, things changed, and my manuscript was put on hold for a while. Thankfully my mum recovered. At the end of 2019, a short adaptation about my experience was shortlisted for the Berlin Writing Prize. When COVID hit earlier this year, Paul and I decided to take creative control of publishing my book. We formed a publishing imprint, and in early July we launched a crowdfunder to help with production and printing costs. The crowdfunder hit its target in under 90 minutes, and the book is now due out in October. I believe strongly in the power of storytelling, not just in helping people heal, but also in making complex situations accessible to everyone. I wouldn't wish what happened to me on anyone, but it undoubtedly made me stronger, it made me braver, more willing to put myself out there, to take greater risks with my work, if you like. I know it's a cliche, but life really is too short. Thank you.